Welcome back to another episode of Straight Facts. I'm joined as ever Wednesday afternoon by the brilliant Jessica Black. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very, very well. And there's so much to talk about on today's show. And we can't go anywhere before talking about the breaking news that's been confirmed to me by two people that work in and around or very close to Chelsea Football Club, that Roman Abramovich is seeking to sell unless there is a dramatic U-turn. And I know a lot of people are tuning straight into the video to hear me say this. I'm going straight into it. Unless there is a dramatic U-turn in the Russia-Ukraine conflict and invasion, Roman Abramovich will attempt to sell the club. Roman is very much focused right now on, so what I was told word for word, Roman is focused on finding a buyer who cares about Chelsea and who wants to continue and grow the club's success. Roman will likely reject any low bid as an attempt to show Chelsea supporters he still cares. More pressure was placed upon Boris Johnson today to sanction Roman. Potential buyers are unsure on how the possible sanctions could impact things moving forward. So it very much appears that Roman Abramovich is trying to take care of Chelsea as best he can by finding a buyer to ensure that they have continuity, they have an owner that cares, they have that support behind them, because it sounds like he's very unsure as to whether or not he's going to be able to remain. And if he takes that risk of going, right, I'm going to double down and remain the owner, and from his perspective goes west and they do sanction him. And these sanctions, I spoke to friends of mine in the banking industry today, they are coming thick and fast. And it isn't just somebody with a Russian passport. It's associates of associates of associates. It's your business buys a product that buys a part from a company owned by someone that has a Russian passport. That's done. Can't do it. Sanctioned. Like, it's running deep right now. So this whole situation feels... of course, we understand why this is going on. There's a lot that's kind of riding on this. There's a lot of issues. And of course, everybody stands with Ukraine, with the horrible things that are happening over there. But Roman Abramovich is looking right now, and I trust the people that have told this to me, to sell the club. I know there was rumors this morning, but more and more people are now confirming that he is looking to sell it as quickly as possible to the right buyers. Hearing this, Jess, along with all the other news, like, what's your take on all this?
Oh, I mean, if it's so funny because like there's fans that'll be like, oh, well, I don't like politics, with my football, whatever, always trying to act like it's separate. It's not. Like there's very much like there's a connection between politics and everything that happens in life, and it infiltrates football just like any other industry. Newsflash, football is a business, so seeing the way that this is unfolding and the quickness in which it is, because just a couple of days ago, it was Abramovich was going to shift kind of like the power to the Chelsea board or their charitable board members. And then that wasn't good enough. And now he's looking to sell. And the quickness in which this is happening just lets you know the how big of a situation this is, and just making sure that we kind of zero in on football, because if we get too far into a political conversation, obviously that's not really what we want to do. But from a Chelsea perspective, like, this has to be like, wow. I remember just when the news was coming out, I really think there was almost like a reluctance from the fan base to kind of believe it or whatever, because they thought that him shifting, the power to the charitable board members or whatever was going to be enough. And it was never going to be enough. And so really, I guess, I think what Chelsea fans could probably hold some confidence in is that Roman Abramovich really does care about Chelsea Football Club. I think that he showed that over the years with the way that he's invested in the club and all of that. So he will try to sell to somebody that's going to uphold that. Whether or not there's somebody out there in the market willing to buy that can uphold that, that's yet to be seen. But this is it's an icky situation where it's like, you just want to enjoy your football, but it's another reminder that everything that happens in the world is also infiltrating football, and just keep that in mind. But yeah, it looks, now, we don't really know what will happen in the next couple of weeks, days, whatever. But right now it looks like he's trying to sell. So The Chelsea fan base, I'm sure, is a little bit on pins and needles because Abramovich has been good to them in terms of the club. Like, he's been good to them, So how much better can you get than Roman Abramovich,
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Chelsea fans, that will be an element of concern for them. And I think it's absolutely acceptable to care about what's going to happen to your football club and still care about the conflict and the invasion and the war that's going on and people there. Like, you can care about more than one subject at the same time. I actually think it's more important for football fans who have no real political, geopolitical war experience to talk about the football element than it is the war, because we don't know enough about that. We're not educated enough on it to, in my opinion, give opinions outside of that's terrible for humanity. That's a terrible thing to witness. It's so cruel. This is bad. In terms of what's happening, who's right and who's wrong, it's something I tend to steer away from because I'm not educated in it. In terms of the football club, Chelsea fans should have an element of trepidation. Change can be exciting, but it's also scary. You can be about to start, but take it down to a real trivial level. You're about to start a new job. You're excited. It's more money. It's in a better city. It's your dream job. But there's still that fear. But what if I'm not a success? What if I don't like it? I've left the job that I was comfortable in. There's always that fear element. And I think Chelsea fans are definitely feeling that. I think what's really critical about this is there are reports still. I think somebody super chatted about it. It's really important to remember that it says Roman is now in the Ukraine for further peace talks. And I'm not denying that any of these stories are true. A lot of the same journalists that have given us information about the club being for sale have also confirmed that he's out there trying to help resolve this matter. But Roman has to be smart. And this is what Chelsea fans have to get their head around. Sometimes in business, sometimes in life, you have to be ahead of a situation and you have to create a contingency. Roman doesn't know how this is going to go. None of us do. In a week's time, forget that. In 24 hours' time, I'd love there to be an announcement. There's a ceasefire. It's over with. Nothing will probably happen to his ownership. This could prolong, though, for 2 weeks, 3 months, 1 year, 6 months, however it is. As I've said, I spoke to friends of mine in the financial industry today, and the sanctions are growing. So initially it was towards certain businesses, certain people. Now it's basically blanket across anything Russian. And it's moving into the areas of the bank is seeking to do its own due diligence to delve even further. So the banks are getting ahead of themselves. They're saying, right, if your business buys a product from a company that buys parts from a company that buys parts from a Russian business, we're looking to sanction it. Because what the banks want to protect themselves against is, in the future, the regulators trying to get some more money out of them by saying, you process these transactions, you allowed these to go through. We think it's outside of, we think you've broken the rules. There's a 50, 60, 100, 200 million pound fine. So what it's also doing now with Roman trying to sell. So Roman doesn't know how far these sanctions are going to go. Boris Johnson confirmed today that he won't go into individual cases, but it's all semi-confirmed that Roman's not on the list right now to be sanctioned. That's how it sounded to me. But that could change by tomorrow afternoon. The Labour government in the UK are pushing for Roman Abramovich to be sanctions. I think the leader of Labour Party is an Arsenal fan, to be fair. So some will say there's a vested interest in that. But they're pushing for it. It could change overnight. Equally, if he's sanctioned, potential buyers, and this is why I say to Chelsea fans, get your head around why he's doing this. So he could be sanctioned. Equally, when he gets sanctioned, no bank may be willing to transact. You might have an American owner that needs to send money to his accounts in Israel. Now, generally speaking, there isn't a direct way of sending that large sum of money. It has to go through the SWIFT payment system. And generally, it will touch 2 to 3 organizations before it lands in its final destination. So if certain banks along the way, jurisdictions and countries say, we are not touching it, we don't want to risk ourselves being damaged in the future, the transaction may not be completed. On top of that, you look at the insurance policy to pay back the debt. The insurance company might be told, yeah, you're a UK-based company. You are not giving a £1.5 billion payout to somebody connected to Putin's regime. And so they might not be able to pay out on it. So that's where Roman is trying to act quickly. I think that's what they need to look at. So in terms of him rejecting bids that are like insulting to try and prove he loves them, he doesn't need to do that in my eyes. Him trying to sell now, even though he might sell and in 2 weeks' time there'd be no issue and he could have stayed, he's putting Chelsea above his own wants and desires. And I think that element is a very honourable thing from Roman Abramovich to do. Because he isn't digging his heels and going, let's wait and see what happens. Maybe I'll keep it, maybe I won't. He's saying, let me find someone that wants to take Chelsea forward, that can do what I've done for them, it will probably be a bitterly sad blow for him to lose that club in one way, shape, or form. But he's putting Chelsea first. And from a footballing perspective, I'd love my owners to do that for me. I really, really would. And everyone's going to have a difference of opinion of, Roman as a person. Is he good? Is he bad? Who's he connected to? Again, I'm not educated enough on that to give an opinion. I'm only speaking about what he's doing for Chelsea. And it will feel like sad times for Chelsea. But this is the man that's, for me, made your club relevant on the grand scheme of things. Gave you 2 leagues, 2 Super Cups, World Club champions, 5 Premier Leagues, and umpteen domestic trophies. And he's still trying to help you. And I know it feels sad for some, feel calm for others. Some will be angry. But it's a situation that 2 or 3 weeks ago we probably never saw coming, really, and it's here now.
Yeah.
And I think another reason another reason he's looking to do it is there does seem to be a lot of distractions off the field.
Yeah.
We spoke about it earlier in the build up to this show. Like the pressure Tuchel's being put under by the media is almost. That's terrible to see. For me, watching it is very uncomfortable now, the way they keep questioning him over his thoughts, his feelings on Roman and the war and the conflict and, what's Chelsea doing? It's becoming very uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, especially with his, do you want to call it an outburst? It felt like one. He's usually pretty, he doesn't lack emotion, but he's straight to the point. But you could tell that he was emotional when or emotive, like when the journalist was asking him questions that he's been asked before. And I have to say, like in most instances, like when rival managers get into situations with journalists, it's funny. This was not. This was very uncomfortable. It felt unfair. And he's there to answer questions around his team and their preparations and what they're doing and, how they see their season and all this kind of stuff. And he's being asked about something that's very sensitive. And to be quite honest, it's just a minefield, like, not to be, reductive, but it's one of those things where it's like, you could easily say something and it be blown out of proportion or taken out of context. And so you really can't speak on it. You don't want to speak on it. You want to just focus on football. I'm sure internally he's dealing with that as well, because the players may be asking him what's going on. The players are probably talking about it. Other staff members are talking about it. So then to have to go out, and face the journalists and they're asking you questions about things that are so sensitive, literally, that you can't answer, but equally if you do answer, they're right there to take it out of context and put it on front page and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
I think was wrong. Like it definitely was wrong. And I feel bad for Tuchel in that instance. And I can't imagine what the discourse is like inside the club, where they don't really probably have a clear vision of what the club is going to be like in the next couple of months, because like you said, anything can happen. And he, as the manager of those players, has to be somebody that keeps everybody together, because they're still in tons of competitions. They still need to be taken along. And this is, from a footballing perspective, a distraction, so I do feel bad for him in that instance,
It absolutely is. And do you know what it is? Sometimes I like hearing, if I listen to a podcast and they're chewing the fat on different subjects, it's like, cool. And we've heard from Tuchel once on this, maybe even twice. Thomas Tuchel is a brilliant football manager, but his ability to talk about this war, in my opinion, is like everybody else in the general public. It's, I might chat to my brother and go, oh, it's terrible scenes. And he'll be like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. We'll talk about it as brothers and then move on. But like, every time something breaks, I'm not going to ring my brother. What's your opinion? What's your opinion? What's your opinion? What's your opinion? Because no disrespect, like my brother's opinion on the war is to a degree irrelevant. I want to hear from experts. I want to hear from political experts. I want to hear from MPs. I want to hear from people in power. I want to hear from people that have experienced these things before. I want to hear from experts. Thomas Tuchel's opinion on what's going on, after a while, becomes very irrelevant. And you're right. What the media have tried to do to him is set him up to fail. For him to say something they can twist him into something that's insensitive, twist into something they can use to make him look like a warmonger. And I will say this because I mean it. I think him being German also makes it a very emotive situation for him. Germany of course, was at the forefront of the last two world wars. And I think some of the great things that country has done since is they own it. Unlike a lot of Western countries that don't own the things they've done wrong, Germany do. They're very forthright. They don't try and bury it under the carpet. They don't try to pretend like they've never done something wrong in the history of their nation. And they work tirelessly to make it better. Are they perfect? No. So I think there's an element of that I could hear in Tuchel as well. And when his words were, I don't like talking, I've never been in a war. I can't I can't keep talking about this. I feel disrespectful, even me being asked about it. I don't know about any of this. You could see that come from him. And I think it's almost like there is also a national thing, I think, with the Germans in terms of, they know that their country has done stuff along these lines before. And he has to be very, very careful to protect himself in terms of what he says, because people will come for him. And you can see that he is clearly upset by what he sees. And I think that's because on a human level, it's horrendous to see. It's horrendous to see this happen anywhere. But also, it's a country or two away from where his nation is. And I feel like in these circumstances, if he comes out and says too much in terms of defending a certain nation, there'll be people that come from, yeah, but you're from this country and your country did this and your country did that. And that's how it goes. And it's disgusting that happens. Like, it doesn't matter what nation you're from. Like, none of us are responsible for what our governments do today, let alone what they did 70, 100, 200, 500, 2,000, 10,000 years ago. Like, it's absolute nonsense to hold individual citizens accountable for those things. And that's why I just see that pressure coming out of him. And I felt really sorry for him so much. I did. And this could be another reason why Roman wants to speed this up, because if they get a new owner in, you then move into this world of, well, Roman's no longer connected to the club. Let Chelsea Football Club focus on what they're there to do. Football clubs, for me, are escapism. And it's a lot of talks come up in the last few days. I would love to get your opinion on this about politics and sport. Some people say they go hand in hand and they must. Other people feel like politics and sport shouldn't miss. Where's your thought process on that?
I mean, I would love for it to be separate, because for me it's more of an escape, but at the same time it's so unlikely that it would be separate, because politics and business often, trade hands, or, are often in the same room at the same time. And so for me, when I look at football, beyond just loving the game, it's a big business. It's the reason why you see big sponsorships and stuff like that. You see it all over the place. The sponsorships on the boards on the side of the pitch, on the kits. And so business, politics, life is going to infiltrate football, even though you don't want it to. And there's nothing that we can do about it. I mean, we've had campaigns, human rights campaigns, different types of them over the years that I'm sure have been, for one reason or another, uncomfortable for certain people, maybe just because they don't want to have to think about things that they have to think about on a daily basis when they're watching football. But the reality is that stage, and that's really what it is, it's an opportunity for messages to get put out there, for things to be said, and for people to kind of, I don't know, say their piece, in a certain way. And so when you see the players coming out and saying okay, they stand with Ukraine, it's a message. You have to use sometimes your platform to get your message across, and it makes people uncomfortable. But football is a stage. It's a medium it's so much bigger than just 22 guys kicking a ball on grass. You know what I mean? And once it's broadcast to millions and millions of people, it becomes something different than what we know it to be. And so, not to say that it's naive to think that, it can be separate. You can want it to be separate all you want, but there's millions of people watching those games. There's an opportunity to put your message out there and to use that platform to ignite change. And it makes people uncomfortable, but that's kind of what it's become, and that's just how I see it now. Football is just a big stage, and sometimes the message is comfortable for you and sometimes it's not. I know people had issues with Black Lives Matters. People have issues with the rainbow captain's armbands and the laces and all that kind of stuff, but it's a massive stage to get your messages out there.
And that pulls on where my mind's at with this. So I'm somebody where if from tomorrow all sports associations, clubs, everybody said we're no longer doing anything political. So no more poppies, no more knees, no more rainbows, no more flags, nothing. I would accept it. Not because I think it's 100% right. I quite like watching sport when it's just sport. So if you watch a game of football on any given day and all you're talking about is sport, it's amazing. I love it. It's great escapism. Where I become sort of jaded with it is everybody picking and choosing which things should be politicized and not. So you'll get people that are like, we have to make every footballer that applies their trade in England wear a poppy to show respect. And I'm sort of like, yeah, I've never really agreed with that notion. I'm someone who's very proud of what. And when I think of the poppy, I tend to think of what soldiers did in World War I and World War II. And I'm very proud of what the British and Allied soldiers from all around the world did and what they achieved in that war. But they fought for freedom. And part of that freedom means you can choose not to wear it. And I think you dishonor those soldiers by forcing people to do something because we were fighting against people being forced to do something. And when I think about, and that's my take on that. But then you'll get people that will be like, we've got to do more for Black Lives Matter. That sits fine with me. But then I hear people that support the BLM thing who get angry over the gay issues. Oh, there's too much. I don't want my kids seeing this. And I'm like, whoa, see, this is the problem. It then becomes personal all the time. What I want to be politicized and what I don't want. Social media then sets this all on fire because everybody's got a platform and it becomes a tit for tat. Again, this Ricky Gervais always talks about this, where he'll tweet something about an animal rights movement, and he says he'll get dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of replies. Yeah, but what about the kids in this country? What about this disease? What about this war? And he's like, I can't tweet about everything. My thing's animals. Let me do things for animals. And that's the problem, I think, that's actually happened. I don't think it's supporting particular things. It's everybody trying to call out hypocrisies because of what they think should be the main focus. And they all miss the main point in all of this when it comes to these sports companies. They're only going to call out people that aren't there, that are not needed for money. Look at the NBA. The NBA was never going to call out a nation that pumps in hundreds of millions, if not billions of pounds a year to its organization. And I know we say they should, but they won't. And I tend to not lose any energy anymore as a grown-up over things I'm not going to be able to control and change. If you get around, it's almost, you can shout and tweet and holler and say that's an injustice, but if it isn't going to change, I find it hard. So I think for me, I'm happy for politics to be in sport. I'm happy for it to be out of sport completely. What I'm not happy with is people picking and choosing what should and shouldn't be politicized. That's where I get frustrated. That's where I get annoyed.
But football has to care about everything, right? Because football is such like a global and inclusive it's inclusive. Everybody is involved. You have all different nationalities, you have all different backgrounds, you have all different whatevers, involved. So football has to kind of care about everything. They can't just unless it conflicts in certain ways, obviously, it has to care. You control what you allow to annoy you, and I think that's the choice that we have. If you don't like Black Lives Matters, leave the room, when they're kneeling. Nobody asked you to kneel, so it's one of those things where I kind of feel like people overdo it. Like they have to care about everything because there's somebody from those groups or there's family members from those groups and they have to show that they're in solidarity with that. It's a part of the game. It's part what they have to do, but you're in control of what you want to look at and what you want to support, and expecting football to bend to what you're comfortable with, for me, is naive. Like, you know what I mean?
No, I agree. I agree completely. Football, if politics is in sport, football touches, and you take the Premier League, it's watched by the whole goddamn world, biggest league in the world, biggest sport in the world, most viewed sport in the world. We have, the likes of Man United and Liverpool, the most viewed teams in the world. So yeah, you have to be. But this is what happens. I remember when you get, as I say, different political campaigns different reactions from different people. And I always have this thought about human beings generally that I've met. This is anecdotal, really, but I'll meet people that if we take them as left or right in terms of their review, they'll be completely left wing, say on an issue to do with race, and I get it, and I'm on board with them. And they're like, yeah, we've got to do this and we've got to do that, and this injustice and da 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 da. I'm like, yeah, cool. And then they become completely right wing when it comes to, say, a gay rights issue. And I'm like, this is why I don't like the polarized binary world we live in now, because it's almost no one I've ever met is all one thing. Like, not when they're being real to themselves, if that makes sense. And I think that's where it's like you can't ask for politics to be in and then moan about a certain type of politics being discussed that you don't like or you don't want to see publicized or promoted or celebrated. It's either you have it involved and you shut your mouth with the moaning, or you ask for it to be completely eradicated. But then remember, what you want to be fought for is also going to be pushed away as well. And I think people have just got to learn. The irony in it is learn to be a bit more damn tolerant. And I find, honestly, the people that preach tolerance the most always seem to be, to me, to be the least tolerant people when something happens they don't like. And they annoy the living daylights out of me. There aren't really any political things that get fought for that I have an issue with personally, because it's a waste of fucking energy to be angry. Like, I'm not really angry about any of it, but some people are, and it's really painful to see. It really, really is. But viewers, we'd love your take on this situation with Roman and the pressure being put on Thomas Tuchel. And, the question is, should politics and sports be separate? It's a question, not a statement. You've heard my view. You've heard Jess's view. We'd love to hear back from you on that. Comment here says, I think people should reevaluate their understanding of politics. Football exists in society. By its very nature, it cannot be separate itself from politics. And that's a great point of view. I think the UFC for me has a great mantra towards it. The UFC as a company is apolitical, takes no side on any matter, and doesn't promote anything. However, they allow their fighters and coaches and trainers to say and support and push whatever they want. I quite like that approach, because when I worked at Barclays Bank, they were apolitical. So Barclays Bank wouldn't push or side with anything, but they allowed its staff members to a degree to, if somebody wanted to wear a pro-Palestine badge, they could. If they wanted to wear a poppy, they could. They wanted to wear an armband in solidarity, they could. I like that approach because it allowed people to do what they wanted to do. Ironically, as soon as the organizations that I worked for like that and associated started becoming more political, even internally, that's when the fight started to happen. Because it was like, oh, but we don't put as much energy into this problem, and you put more into this one, and that ain't fair on me. I hear that completely, and I think you're right there, Bub. But it's people. I don't know. People are babies, aren't they? Like, without saying horrible, people are just babies.
I think they just feel like, it's just football mimics life. Like, every time something happens, it ripples through football and we hear about it. We see the changes or non-changes, whatever. And it's just, I just don't see how you can separate it. Like, I really don't. And I remember when I was working as a flight attendant and Trump was about to get elected, or no, he had already been elected. And there was huge disputes on whether you could wear like Make America Great Again, like stuff, or vote for Trump's stuff. And how can you tell somebody that they can't wear that when there's somebody out there that wants to have a vote for Hillary pin? Just because there was you know what I mean? Like, just because one person was more controversial than the other. And so it's hard to manage people's want to, express how they feel. And I feel like it's all or nothing, but I almost feel like for me, it has to be all. And you kind of let people, and if you don't like looking at it, you turn an eye. I was never somebody that, if I didn't like something that somebody was doing, I wouldn't go to the manager and say, I don't like that. I just wouldn't communicate with that person or whatever. I would get over it. But that's my temperament. Some people, if they don't like something, they don't want to see it, period. And that's not going to happen.
No, you're absolutely right. And it has got to that point now. I mean, it's funny. When I grew up and I remember my dad voting, I'm like, Dad, who'd you vote for? And he's like, you never tell anyone who you vote for. It's private. And I think that's been lost in today's society. And because everyone talks about who their politics are, it's created a lot of these issues. Like, it should just, if we all just kept it like, if we did an experiment where everyone shut their mouths about politics for a year and just voted, did their thing, there'd be a lot less arguments. But people don't want to listen anymore either. Like, if someone has a different view to you, I'm seeing a lot of comments here saying, Terry, your argument about the UFC is flawed. Actually, they lean towards this party. And do you know what? Like, I'm not going to sit here and disagree and argue. That's your interpretation. Definitely, because we know that Dana White leans towards the Republicans. It doesn't mean that you got to remember, Dana White isn't the UFC in its entirety. And that's the point. Dana White is that. But the UFC isn't. If somebody wants to sit on the UFC stage and support the complete opposite view to what Dana White holds, Dana White will allow it to without attacking them or dropping them from the show. That's my point. The organization is free from it. Individuals can say what they want to. I like that model. And it's not perfect because nothing is. So again, please don't try and interpret my words as me saying they have it down, they have it perfect, they have it amazing. And I do think sport plays a part in politics, but it's either you've got to accept it in all areas or hush the gums. It's one of them two ways for me, but I doubt people want to accept that. Speaking of politics,
Yay.
Antonio Conte. Lighting in the mood a little bit now. They lost again. They're out of another tournament. Like, this man is... He really could quit, couldn't he? He really could walk away and quit the Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think most of the Tottenham fans that I know, I don't know a lot of them, but the ones that I know are very aware that they don't back their managers properly. And they are scared that they've figured out a way. I mean, they remember there was like tons of managers that rejected them, including Antonio Conte first. Like, he was one of the people that rejected them first. And then things came full circle and they were actually able to get him, which is miraculous because Manchester United probably should have got him, right? Or, in theory. So they have one of the best managers available to them that's playing, that's there and ready to make their team better. But there was always something underneath that I know a lot of people brought up, and that was Conte and Levy. Levy always says he's going to do something and then turns around and doesn't do it. He said he was going to back Conte, but he turned straight around in January. I mean, Conte was hired in November, right? He was hired in like November time. Yeah. And 2 months later, after they put out, it was all out in the media that they were going to have this huge January window, they didn't do it. And so it's Levy that's really let Conte down and started the BS that they know what's going on. And Conte is not the type to stick around. If he doesn't like what's happening, if he doesn't win a trophy, if they're not being competitive, if they don't make top four, he's not going to, first of all, it's a short-term contract, like 18 months or whatever. He's going to walk. He doesn't have to do this. He'll get another job somewhere else. Like, why does he have to deal with this crap? So I think that there's a real chance that he could walk at the end of the season, especially if like somebody like Harry Kane doesn't want to stick around, because they're not winning any trophies this season. The only saving grace that I feel like they have is if they make top four. But if they don't, what's the point of sticking around? And Conte already knows that the transfer policy is going to be buying young players and letting them develop. That does not go with Antonio Conte. That was a big reason why, like, as an Arsenal fan, we were kind of saying, well, we got a bunch of young players, so what are we about to do? And so I think that there's a lot of different things at play, but it kind of goes back to the foundation and the reason why Tottenham are where they are right now in regards to they're in their most successful period, really, and they haven't won much or anything at all, really, is Levy. They'll hire the manager and just crap all over it. And so it wasn't like, was anybody surprised that they lost yesterday? I know that it was, even when they beat Leeds, I don't think there was a huge like, oh, they're back. Everybody beats Leeds. Leeds played right into their hands. We knew as the next time that they played against a team that just wanted it more and was defensively solid, they'd be fine, you know, or like they would be able to compete. And I have to say that that was one of the worst Spurs performances I've seen in a long time. Like in terms of there was a lot of guys walking, um, like just mid game. Like I just saw a lot of walking, heads down, just defeated. And I'm like, this is a chance for you to win a trophy, something that you guys need, and you're just crapping on it. I mean, I didn't, as bad as Arsenal and Man United were to get booted out of the competition, I didn't see walking though. Like, what is this? And so it's not so much that they're just not good enough and they're not adapting to tactics. They're actually not applying themselves and putting in effort for Antonio Conte, really. So they're in a sticky situation. But in terms of, I think there's a real possibility that he could go. I know some people feel like, well, he probably will wait around for the summer transfer window. But why? What is the precedent that they're going to go out there and do something that they were supposed to do in January?
I agree, and it's interesting. You know, everything you brought up there, I think, is straight facts. And excuse the pun. They were meant to have this big Jan. They didn't. They missed out on They meant to get certain targets. They didn't. I feel like for Antonio Conte, like I thought he would have almost instantly fixed an element of their mentality because he is that kind of manager. And I was wrong about that. But then you've got to look at why. It isn't as simple as just. It is as simple as it's the history of the Tottenham. But why is that there? And it's because of the actions of the owners and where they run the football club. And I had the guys on last night talking. I watched the show back and I was listening and then researching. And what you look at with them, it's the message that it sends to the players in January too. You brought in one of the best managers in the world. Yes. You promised him a big January. And certain players wouldn't want a big January. Certain players like Winks don't want top-class midfielders coming in because he's done. But the Harry Kanes and the Sons and the Højbjergs, Romero's, the Hugo Lloris's, they want more quality in that team. We bring in Antonio Conte. And if you think about it, how many more managers in the world were attainable for Tottenham that were as good or better than Conte? The answer is none. That would, you know, no, everybody else that's better than him is already in jobs that Spurs have no chance of taking them away from. It is the best managerial appointment since Bill Nicholson for Tottenham Hotspur. That's how good Antonio Conte is. So how do you think the players feel when you're not backing him? How do you think the players feel when you're letting him down on the promises? I don't think it's about them not listening or wanting to work for Antonio Conte. It's just this element of, and we've said this before about Man United, and it stands true at Tottenham. When the owners of your football club don't care, if you've had a job before, right, especially if you go back to, and this normally applies more to like lower level retail work, and it shouldn't be a professional football club worth, you know, turning over hundreds of millions of pounds. When the line manager doesn't care and you don't get in trouble for being a little bit late, when no one gets in trouble for not hitting targets, people start to cut corners because what's the point of applying yourself when you don't have to? And I look at Tottenham and I see that again. It's almost, you know, if we'd have got Luis Diaz and Bentancur and Traore, and if Conte was buzzing and happy, it would raise the levels. Everybody starts to behave in a different kind of way. And again, they've let him down. And I think Antonio Conte will walk. I think he should walk because he needs to protect himself. He is so much bigger and better than Tottenham Hotspur. He legitimately is. And I wouldn't say it's a shame to see it because on a footballing
No,
level,
it's not a shame.
yeah, I don't want to see Tottenham become brilliant. There's no doubt about it. It's celebratory times for rivals that it isn't working. But if I remove my Man United hat and just look at it kind of isolated, it's an absolute joke. Imagine appointing a manager of his caliber and you don't give him what he needs. They've done it twice now on the bounce. Well, 3 times.
I just remember in that, like, there were so many Tottenham fans who were like, this is going to be different. Levy said that he's going to back him. Who listens to what Levy says? Like, he'll do anything to get that man in the job. And I thought, okay, so when it comes to Tottenham, I think what they are is kind of like, it's kind of like a really pretty woman, but like one that doesn't have any soul. So it's somebody that looks really good on the outside,
Yeah,
but there's nothing really going on the inside.
You get a lot of them in Los Angeles. You get a lot of them in LA, don't you?
Exactly.
No, I mean, so, that's not a dig at you. That's true. There's a lot there.
No, yeah, like there's a lot of like just we're gonna get the big stadium And so we're going to compete on that front. We're going to have the nicest stadium, charge the highest ticket prices. We're going to have, the branding. The branding that Tottenham has is like that of an elite club, but without the real accolades and the trophies and the competitiveness on the pitch. They've really zhuzhed the place up to make it feel like that's the place to be. Then you couple that with a world-class manager, and boom, Tottenham all of a sudden looks like a team or a club that's at the elite level. What you find is when you scratch beyond like there's not a lot there, like in terms of what is the culture, what are they trying to build, what's the transfer strategy, what are they trying to do? And it just feels like a little bit of, I'm trying to keep Tottenham where it is, like in terms of where I built it up to, without actually building something underneath to sustain that. And I found one of the most interesting things from yesterday's show that you guys did after the game was, I forget who said it, but they were just like, some of these players may be traumatized or still reeling from not winning that Champions League final. And this is like Tottenham, I don't want this, but you need a rebuild. Like the players may not all be crap, but there's some people that probably have a little bit of trauma from that, don't have the ability to get up and go and do it again. And you just need a change, like start over with new, fresh eyes, new, fresh players, new, fresh something. But the problem is that Levy wants to maintain that status without actually having the sustainability beneath it. And that's your problem. You have a really pretty club that's beautiful on the outside. It looks like an elite level club, but there's really no soul there. And that's an issue. And you had soul with Pochettino, Dembele, Eriksen, Dele Alli when he was playing really well, Son, Kane. That was a really solid, good team that had the culture, had the mindset, had everything. And there's just none of that now. And it feels good because I kind of felt like they would get better, but I wasn't sure if Levy would actually back him. Seeing that he's not is like, yes. But from a Tottenham perspective, that has to be very, very disappointing.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. So I'm going to add absolutely nothing to that because for me, that's spot on. It's again, one of my bugbears, and my daughter brings a man home like this, he's getting chucked out straight away. Style over substance. Every time that the style is put before substance, you fail in life. It's as simple as that for me. You need the substance first, and then you add the style. Having both is perfection. It's utopia. But you have to have substance first before you add style to it. And, it's as simple as that. Very, very well put there. And Spurs fans would love your take, love your view. I want to know what you think. I mean, rivals, we know you're all going to laugh. Like, you're not going to we get that. So there's some super chats here. First one here says, peace talks are a farce. They have encircled Kiev with Belarus joining the war. Chelsea should be sent to the championship like Juve. They are much worse. I mean, Chelsea Football Club have done nothing wrong here. So
Can I say one thing about this too that we didn't really touch on is this really isn't a moment. First, Chelsea is not Russia. You know what I mean? And this is not really a time to do the one up thing that we tend to do. Like when somebody's going through something that's serious, this is not really a time to be like, well, my club would never do something like this. You guys are, invading, da, 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 da. Chelsea is separate from Russia. And I just feel like this is kind of like an inappropriate time to try to one up each other's clubs because people are dying.
I agree completely. I agree completely. Source of billionaires' wealth is seldom
palatable.
There we go. We've had a glorious run with Roman. His dedication to Chelsea is unrivaled amongst owners. Journo question to TT. He's the head coach, not a politician. And this is true. He's not a politician and shouldn't be sort of questioned over. Asking him what are things like at the training ground with the club maybe being sold is a fair question because you're talking about the football element. And that's what's key here. Ask Tuchel questions about how these things are impacting the team. Are they ready? Are they prepared? Are they distracted? Because that's his area of expertise, It's like, again, when you speak to economists, you ask them about how something's going to impact the economy. I don't want an economist's opinion on the best strategy to stop the war. unless he feels the best way to stop it is sanctions and finance. Like, then it makes sense. And I think that's very, very key. Great super chat, Dexter. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We all have a duty to speak up when innocent children are being killed. Peace and love. And I agree with you on that. And I call it the slippery slope. And I often find in life we're very quick and easy to like yield on our morality when someone or a group of people or a type of person is in the mud or being mistreated or is being vilified or whatever it may be, because it suits our purpose at that time. But you always set very dangerous precedents, and we have a tendency, if it benefits us, it's like, oh, you know what, like that's the political opponent that I want to see in the mud, so let's celebrate that his phone's been illegally tapped to leak some information. Yeah, you're going to encourage more illegal tapping. Is that really, like, the story isn't what they've tapped, it's the fact it was done. But we always seem to miss that as people. You're absolutely right. Jose got them to a final and got fired when they could have won, could have gone on to win. He never lost that final. This is
another really strange decision. You know, it's just, what's the point of hiring these types of managers if you're not going to back them and let them at least manage the final that they got you to? Like, it's so, Levy really is somebody that the Tottenham fan base should be so upset.
That's where the anger should be. But you know what?
And I'm seeing people turn on Conte a little bit as well, like from the fan base, like, well, what is he doing? He's sitting there looking at the mess in front of him. Like, he said it multiple times. The team is not good enough. They don't have the mentality. They're not working hard enough. Like, he's just sitting there watching the train. What is he supposed to do? He needs better players. Like, when you brought in Conte, you knew he was going to want new players. He wasn't going to want to deal with everything that he had sitting there. He probably looks at Son and Kane and he's like, this is all I got. You know?
And this is the point. This is clubs that are run badly. We have a propensity to keep. I heard him Winks. Yeah, Winks is bad, but why is he there still?
Dyer, Davies, why are they there? Like,
McFred are terrible, but why are they there? It's always look at how your club is run first, and if that's perfect or as close to perfect as you could want it to be, run very well, then look at managers, then look at players. You know, if your club's been brilliant for 10, 15 years, you hire a new manager. Like, if Liverpool hire a new manager and it goes horribly wrong, it's probably fair to look at the manager, you know? But if it's like the next 4 managers go wrong and nearly every player you sign doesn't work out, it's like, hang on a minute. Why do we keep focusing on this low-hanging fruit and not the real? Every Tottenham, I'll say this now with chest, any Tottenham fan who renews their season ticket doesn't love their football club enough. And I'll tell you as to why. There's a reason for it. You are feeding this mediocrity that's making you angry. I know you think you love your club, but tough love is needed. Cut the heads off these snakes and make them run your football club better. Fans have all the power, because when people only care about money, you impact their back pocket and they'll respond. It's so easy as in a process. However, it takes a lot of courage to give up that season ticket you might have held for 30 years, 40 years. Somebody else might get it and I might not be able to go back. Well, that proves you love your club. Like, I look at it that way. If you give up your season ticket and you don't get one back for 10 years, but it forced out bad owners or it made your bad owners work the club better, that's the love. You've shown your love. That's more important for me. But for some people, being in that ground, win, lose or draw, good or bad runs, I've got that shit. I'm proper. I'm proper Chelsea. I'm proper United. I'm proper Spurs. I'm not going to use the word Spurs used because it's banned now, I think. When football fans rival or not, saying Chelsea should be demoted is really staggering. Yeah, I think, look, Casey's having a pop, and I just look, Casey's a long-time viewer of the Terrace, and respect him, but it isn't the right time for that. The other side of North London, though, Jessica, I think we're not going to talk about Arsenal per se. We're not going to talk about Arsenal directly. I want because we do that a lot. No, because we speak about Arsenal all the time. So again, you're already doing it. Look at you, the salt there. The salt. I like the top, by the way. It's very nice.
Yeah, I know you're going to throw shots at me. You don't really love your club because you bought something. It's a gift.
Okay. Who from?
None of your business.
Oh, like that, is it? Cool. Yeah. Fair enough. Well, so I want to talk to you about fans here, and I want to talk about social media element around the club.
My favorite subject.
Yeah, because I love it, and do you know what I love? We're in it. We're in it. So it isn't so much about whether you're going to do it or not. Do you feel like some Arsenal fans? There's a lot of graphics going around at the minute, and they're right and they're bang on. Arsenal are favourites. 61% chance. The mathematicians and the statisticians have said of Arsenal qualifying for the Champions League. On top of that, it's seen that Man United are about 21%, Spurs 13%, and I think West Ham have got like a 3% chance of making it. And I think that's based on form, home and away records, who they've got left to play, etc.
Yeah.
Do you feel like some Arsenal fans, not all Arsenal fans, I'll be very specific with my words, are maybe setting themselves up for a huge amount of humble pie and failure if the club doesn't follow through with being the favourites with the 61% chance, in terms of the amount of chat I see about it? The parade bus has been booked and it's all ready to go because we are going to do it. Do you feel that, like, I know you're not like that. I know you're very much someone that's, listen, I know we're looked at as favourites, but let's take each game as it comes, let's stay humble, let's keep our feet on the ground, celebrate each individual win. Do you feel like some Arsenal fans are setting themselves up for monumental banter if this goes wrong?
I mean, potentially. I think that, you know, in social media, you want to be first. And I booked my confetti. Yeah. I mean, I think that some people want to be first. And I tend to hold back a little bit because I just know week to week things can change so much. I would love to see the percentages if we had lost to Wolves. It would probably look very different. I remember when we drew to Burnley, our chances went down by like almost 20%, and they went back up. We started winning games. So from week to week, it can change so much. And that's why I hold back, because I'm just like, we could go into this next run of games and not play well. You just never really know, right? But we've been consistent. So, we'll see. But in the game of social media, which we know that it is kind of a game, I feel like there's some people that just want to go week to week, take their L, take their W, and just kind of do their thing. And it's up to them to live with the so-called consequences of that if it doesn't come off. And that's a part of the way that they play the game. I tend to only really want to really celebrate when it's done, because if it does get done, then, then I get to say what I want to. But I also didn't get to experience the week on week celebration going overboard. I haven't been able to experience that. Some people they have to feel it right then. They have to continue on and push it and push the narrative. And that's on them. If it doesn't come off, then just be ready for the banter to come. But ultimately, I think it's a part of the game and how you play it.
Of course. Yeah. And we are talking the social media thing here. So viewers, like, we're not talking about Arsenal per se. We are talking about the social media element and fans. And it is a game. And it is a game of, some people have this thing of, I need to prove I'm right all the time. Don't want to admit when they get things wrong, but really want to celebrate their wins. And that's on them. That's their character. That's what they're doing. But I know I watch some of them and how they react when they get things wrong and how much it impacts them, the way they have to take time away from things, how they talk about their mental health, how they talk about they can't handle the pressure of getting things wrong. And with all that being said, I watch it and think, you're really setting yourself up for like the biggest amount. Like, from my point of view, I'm very open about this. If Man United finish in front of Arsenal to make top 4, I'll be happy we made top 4. Finishing in front of Arsenal would be nice. I'm not saying it wouldn't feel good, but overall, my season is still a failure. I will not be celebrating like we've achieved something great, because we haven't. And that's no disrespect meant towards Arsenal. I will definitely come for the fans, though, the individuals that have told me without a shadow they're going to do it. And it will just be like, well, what went wrong? And not come for them to laugh at them, because that just really isn't my way. Like, to you're wrong, you're stupid, you don't know football. Because you don't not know football because you get a prediction wrong. It's more going to be the case, why did you go so hard? I want to know why you went so hard. What is your motivation? And maybe you're right. It's that I want to be there's a lot of growth on social media when you're hyper positive when things are going well. Also, that I want my other opinions. So I think for some people that have got bigger opinions about Arsenal, how their progression is going, who to trust, when they're going to win the league next, it's almost if I can prove I'm right about top 4 as an example, I can get more people to believe and push my narrative around the future of the club, which is also mad because you and I have had this conversation on here many times about how this is like a stepping stone and it's a good achievement and you have every right to celebrate and be happy with the progression. You know, I told Lee straight about it last night. I think he's wrong not to celebrate that progression. But you know, and I know you and many Arsenal fans, but you're still going to keep your neck on the owner's throats to be, we've still got to sign more. We've got to keep improving. We've got to keep getting better. I just feel like some people are putting themselves on a social media level. And some people listen, well, why does that matter? Well, because trust me, we're on social media. This is literally what we do. So I think it matters massively. I'm going to be very intrigued to see how they feel if it does go wrong. And I don't think it will, by the way. I think you've got a huge, huge chance. And the only way it can go wrong, if Man United pull off a miraculous 3 results in these next 3 games, which I don't believe we will, that can change things because I think most people are banking on Man United dropping major points in these next 3 games. And then, of course, Arsenal can reciprocate, though. If Arsenal win their 3 games against those big sides, it doesn't even matter what Man United have done to a degree because you've got those games in hand. I think those games are going to be really, really pivotal.
I think it's going to come down to the head-to-heads more than anything because you guys are going to drop points. We'll probably drop points. Spurs will drop points, but I really think it's going to come down to, for us, Man United at home and Spurs away. I think those 2 matches, if we can get points, that could really help because one thing that we are consistent with that you guys really struggle with, which I find so weird, is beating the small teams consistently, or at least making sure that you don't drop all 3 points. And so, but then I look at Spurs, it's so weird because even though they don't have very many difficult games coming up, I think they played City twice already. They've already played Liverpool. Like, I think they only really have to play like us and you, I think. They really struggle against the small teams. So seeing that they only have to play like the smaller teams, I'm kind of like, that's a good thing because they can only really get up for the big teams. But kind of going just back to like the whole like over they setting themselves up. I think some people are addicted to the game. Like I really think some people love, the putting a big opinion out there and it coming right. And you're like, yes, I'm the Messiah. I knew it. And then kind of when it doesn't go, you go big and it doesn't come off. And then you kind of have to go away for a little bit and then come back and you do it again. And so I think to a certain extent for those people, it's worth it. But for the rest of us that are kind of like, then I go on panels and stuff and I have to be asked questions about things that I never said. It's annoying, because I'm like, I never freaking said that, but it's just kind of a part of the beast. You know what I mean? But I will say at this point I don't have to look at percentages and know that we definitely are in a very healthy position to get into the top 4. I don't think Spurs and United are playing well at the moment. And I would be disappointed not to make it. I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, I feel like we should do it, and if we don't, I'll be disappointed. Will I cry? I don't know. Maybe I will shed a tear because I don't really know. Like, I don't know what next season is going to be like,
And
you're this is a good chance.
And you're bang on there. And this is the thing. You are right. Like to not, you're ahead of the curve in terms of where you all expected to maybe be. And it doesn't matter why that is. And I think it's a combination of 2 things. You're better and some teams haven't progressed or have gone backwards. And that's natural in any season. I don't like this premise of false position because how far do you take that? City are only the champions because Liverpool are not better than them. Therefore, it's a false title win. Like, how far do you break that logic down? It's when you take it to a granular level, it's stupid. Like Norwich are not the worst team in the league. It's just that some teams are a bit better than them this year. Therefore, Norwich don't actually deserve to go down. Like, it doesn't make sense. So Arsenal so far this season, and I know you're behind us because you've played 3 less games, but you've been better than Man United. It's as simple as that.
But I think when we were in that position and people were saying it was false 4th, I do genuinely believe that points on the board are bigger than games in hand. I still think
Yeah, that's
Man
true.
United are, if Man United could just put 1 or 2 chances away during a game that are so, like, obviously big misses, you walk away with 4th. You just do.
Well,
It's
Man
so
United.
strange how still these wide open chances are being missed. That's the only
Well,
thing really keeping us in it,
well,
really, and
Man,
our consistent form.
Man United have created more chances and more big chances in games since Roman arrived, since Ralph arrived until now. So I don't believe it's a lack of quality. Again, you know what I said to you before about some people saying we won't win the league title without a DM. I kind of half agree with that. Like, yeah, maybe you're right. We needed that extra player. But to
Yeah.
not make the top 4, I'm not looking at a DM as being the issue. It's missing chances that's cost us in these games.
But why are you guys missing those chances though? Like, I think it's like a lack of confidence. Could it be anything else but that?
I
Or
think
they're failing, like, to take, ownership of this opportunity? Because we've seen that this team, when they've gotten into difficult situations like semifinals and stuff, and even the final of the Europa League, couldn't do it, even though they were superior in quality. Do you think that they're kind of shying away from an opportunity? And it's not really an opportunity because you guys should be a lot further along, but like, you think the players are aware that having Champions League football is very important for Manchester United?
of course, this all comes down to a lot of the eye test merchants hate me saying this, and I know they do. I see their tweets. It's a mentality issue. Because the misses that people have been, some of Ronaldo's, I think, have been physical. When he rounded the goalie and couldn't get his hips to open up. Even 2 of his open goals, when you watch them back enough times, you can see he just can't open his body up quick enough to maneuver the ball in the right direction. There's a little bit of his age with him, but a lot of it's been handling the pressure. And there's 2 things that have made this happen. They don't have the excuse anymore of the system not creating enough chances and not creating them enough opportunities, because there's been a couple of games that we deserve to drop points in. Newcastle away, Wolves at home. Those 2, we were not the better team in, and we deserved to drop points. The rest of the games, we were by far the superior team for the vast majority of the game. And Brentford, you could argue, first half we got fortunate, second half we blew them away. And the irony is, in that game, we took our damn chances. If we, in relation to that, but I think that the pressure of you have to do it, where we weren't expected to make the top 4 in Ollie's first full season. Most people writ us off. If you go back to watch a lot of the big channels, United were predicted 5th and 6th. Your second year, it was almost, we did what you're doing to this season to a degree. You had the Chelseas and the Liverpools that were nowhere near as good as everybody expected. We jumped in front of them, and then we had such a cushion that we could relax and play our game and make top 4 easily. Right now, you've got a team that knows they have to be in the Champions League. They're struggling to cope mentally. And then on top of that, allowing Martial and Donny van de Beek to leave, I think, has created a problem. The pressure now on certain, you have to deliver now. There's no one else behind. If we take Bruno off the pitch, there's no one to come on for him. Like, I don't want Rashford to start, but there's no one else at the club now. There's some kids, and we have no idea how good they are. So you put all this additional, we've made some terrible decisions. And I know that the attacking element with Mason Greenwood, if that video of him would have been leaked 4 weeks earlier, Martial would be at the club right now. So there'd be an extra body. There would no way they'd have let him go as well. Or would have bought somebody, there'd have been more time. I think it's those 2 things, and it's the mentality issue. We have enough quality to beat the teams that we've dropped points to in the last few weeks, because we've outplayed them in the games, we've dominated the majority of the ball, and we've created vast amounts of clear-cut chances. And I think that, yeah, you could throw a DM into there. We might leak a few less goals and opportunities ourselves in those games, and that's going to be key to growing as a club moving forward. But we haven't been able to handle the pressure. And I think whenever I listen to athletes talk, footballers talk, boxers talk, fighters talk, they all speak about how hard they work in training, their technique and everything else, but it's the mindset. They all speak about their mindset, how they stay calm, how they didn't get flustered. There's a big fight happening this week in the UFC. And I was listening to an ex-fighter talk, and he said, you can tell they both despise each other. He said, but the winner will be the one who manages that anger the best on fight day. If even, like, generally, if you're still pepped up, you're fighting, you're angry, you want to kill the guy, when you're walking into the ring, you're in the ring, you're looking at him. He said, what that does over the course of the whole day, it fatigues you. The negative energy, some people call it, and it can fatigue you very, very quickly and make it harder for you to create openings and fight and stay relaxed. If one of the fighters is able to, like, let go of that and just fight the fight, they're
Yeah.
they're more than likely to win. And Man United, I saw it in the Watford game. We were so, we were so good. It's funny, really, 'cause I actually thought it was one of Bruno's best games. Held onto the ball well, created chances, and got into goal scoring positions. The only thing that didn't happen, no one finished the chances he created, and he missed these opportunities to score goals. Well, 91% pass completion, his ball retention was great. There was even times where I thought, oh no, don't cross now, and he didn't, and he dropped the shoulder and passed the ball. But the longer the game went on, you could see that mental fatigue come in. We ran out of ideas. We were becoming a little bit erratic in our play. We weren't concentrating and staying relaxed because we knew how important it was. And every game we drop points in, it makes the following match even more tense because we know we're falling. I know we're mathematically still in front of you, but the game's in hand. We're falling further behind Arsenal, and that pressure is cranking up. And we've seen with this United team over the past 9 years, they don't handle pressure, and it's been passed on from squad to squad to squad. And your point earlier about some of these Spurs players leaving, it's one of the reasons why I'm looking at people like Marcus Rashford now. I'm looking at people like him and thinking, Luke Shaw, forget ability for a minute, whether you think they're good enough or not is irrelevant. I just think mentally moving them on and bringing in fresh blood that doesn't feel any accountability for these past failings are more likely to succeed. I think we're getting to that point where some of these players are
They're
just so
traumatized. They're
jaded,
traumatized.
traumatized, and they can't handle it. And that's fairly normal. And Man United fans haven't been through this. Man United as a football club for a certain generation haven't been through this because we just saw that, we saw the Nevilles and the Giggses and the Scholeses and even signings like your Vidic's and your and whatever else and Rio's spend 7, 8, 9 years at the club, and it was all everyone signed, and unless they were a flop, they generally stayed for a long time, barring Ronaldo. Every now and then a player has left to go somewhere. Beckham only left because of the situation with him and Fergie. Players stayed for a long time. You only went down after leaving Man United. We're not that club anymore. We're just not under the Glazers. That Man United does not exist in any way, shape, or form. And, that's why we are where we are. But your point about Arsenal, I think about capitalizing on this is key because things could change at Man United next year. Things could change at other clubs in and around this top four conversation. If Man United do put Ralph upstairs and do bring in the right manager, I don't think the right manager is Poch. Trust me, if Poch comes in, I want to be wrong. Like, this whole thing about I've got to be right. I'm not going to be Lee Gunner and look for every single opportunity to put Poch down. I want Poch to win. If he wins games, I'll celebrate because me not thinking he's going to do it, as in get us to winning titles and Champions Leagues, doesn't mean I won't want him to. And that's what I think is lost on social media fans. I don't think Rashford is going to be good enough. Therefore, no matter what he does, he's never going to be good enough. I don't think Bruno, do you get where I'm coming from? Like, I don't subscribe to that notion. My opinion and what I want to happen are sometimes very different things. But that's why it's important for Arsenal to make it and then to capitalize in the transfer market and to ensure that, keeping your foot on the club's neck to keep you moving forward. Because I think one of the most painful things for Arsenal fans to maybe go through would be to make it into the top four and then have an average summer. And then by May 2023, finish 5th or 6th again and not be in the Champions League. When you've got yourselves in front of Man United, it's now a case of, well, stay in front of them. Do you know what I mean? And start pushing the Chelseas and the Liverpools and everybody else slowly. That's why I don't like this notion of outright crazy celebrations for making it back into the top four. Not someone like you. Not someone like Adam Charles, and I'm using you two as not someone like Kesh, who will celebrate making it, but go, right, let's go again. I'm talking about people that are acting like this is the top of Mount Everest. And once we get there, we're there. And it proves that all the other things I believe are definitely going to happen. I just feel like that's a bit of a warped way of looking at it, really, especially with the history of our clubs in the last 10 to 20 years. Like, I don't quite get how there could be so much soon. I think that's a little bit premature.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. For most, I think when you've been, so I guess how I think of this whole situation is, of course, like making top four is not a trophy, right? And so it's not something really to sit there and be like, yeah, we can put it in our trophy cabinet. We know that, right? Most Arsenal fans do know that. But at the same time, when you've been bantered so badly for the last 5 years for not being in it, equally, you can't tell an Arsenal fan that it's not important.
Yes.
Because also, if we don't make it, we'll get bantered. We all know what top four means. We know what being in Champions League means. So I'm not going to minimize it. I've seen some people, not you, but I've seen some people minimize it. early doors, just in case we get it. That's how rivals do it. It's like it's not a big deal. You know what I mean? Like it's not a big deal if you get
like
it because it's not a trophy.
like people
Yeah.
did with the League Cup at the weekend. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's only a Mickey Mouse trophy. Yeah, I hear
Yeah,
you.
exactly. So it's that. I do think that with the history of our club, with in terms of being in top four and understanding that they're going to have more money coming in, that in the past has allowed them to feel comfortable not investing, we have to make sure that this summer we're not just okay with any old players coming in. Like we literally can't have a Tottenham transfer window. We can't go after João Felix and Fabian Ruiz and end up with two players that just came from anywhere and it was not even our first choices and they come in on the last day. Like we do have to make sure that we push them because this is when the Cronkies will get, they want us to be in the elite level competition that allows them to continue to funnel money into the club without actually having to put money in. So we can't let them relax. But at the same time, I'm optimistic that they'll do the right thing, and I think that that's fair, but we just have to make sure that they do it. But I wanted to ask you, like, I'm seeing in the comment section of the chat box, and I'm not quite sure what this means. I have an inkling, but I'm not sure I completely understand. But people are saying that Arsenal are not Champions League quality. What does that mean? Like, is it
So,
because we don't have any like star
so
names? Like, what is that?
my interpretation of that would be, and anyone saying it can, it's the same as what people would say about Man United this year. You're in the Champions League, but you're not winning it. I think that's what it kind of means. So yeah, that would be my take. So again, Arsenal qualifying for the Champions League. I don't know right now because we don't know who else is in it. We don't know what everyone's summers look like. But you're probably not going to be in the top 8 teams, favourites to win it, if that makes sense. So I think some people will go, well, what's the point of you being there? And again, I think that
There's teams
is.
like Sharif and other teams like. So why can't we be in there?
Hang on. Let me finish. That's
Just
just
say.
weak. That's just weak banter. Yes, Arsenal are not going to be one of the favourites next season. But if you utilize the money and the draw of the Champions League right in the transfer market, you can put more bricks in place to build back to where you want to be. Where I would say, if you make the Champions League this year and your club invests how a club Arsenal size should, and you make the Champions League the following year and you invest again how you should, Arteta going into his fourth full season, the expectations of challenging for the Champions League and challenging for the title have to be there at the very, like maybe even the start of, not the start of next season, but the start of the season after. If you do Champions League 2 years running, it's got to be, well, you start challenging for those leagues now or whatever else. So to say that you're not Champions League quality right now, therefore what's the point of being there? It's reductive, as you've put, and it's just weak banter because you have to get back into it to be able to attract the talent that is one day going to make you win the damn thing again. So it's poor banter by anybody that's saying it, and it makes no.
And people that are saying we've never gotten close to winning the Champions League don't actually know anything about football because we have. So I don't know. I get where you guys are trying to come from. I don't want to see you guys in Champions League, so we're just going to say you're not Champions League quality. But if we qualify, then we're Champions League quality, aren't we? It is what it is. Just because you don't want to see us there doesn't mean that we're not. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Look, and listen, look, I've been through it all year as a United fan. Yeah, you're in it, but you ain't winning it. So what's the point? And it's like, well, listen, I don't think Man United are going to win the Champions League. I have no hope of this. I don't think we're going to get through this round, to be fair. But if my club was being run right, being in the Champions League gives us more of an opportunity because you can sign better. You can sign clubs like Man United and Arsenal can sign top quality without the Champions League. But you can get even better or more of that quality.
Yeah, there's definitely a higher level player that you can go after. You can get quality, but there's definitely a different type of quality. Like, you guys, we were in the Champions League final in 2006. I know you guys probably weren't born, especially some of you Chelsea fans. You knew Chelsea fans, but yeah.
You were. And look, listen, you were.
This is what I'm saying. Like, people, you can't say something like you guys have never been close to winning it when we have.
Let me just say this about Arsenal as well, right? Because I said this about Liverpool a lot. Arsenal fans are not rewriting history here, but rivals are. Between 2005 and like 2010, that period alone, maybe even up to about 2011, Arsenal would go into every Champions League campaign looked at as a team that everybody in Europe feared and that they could be beaten by and that they could win the Champions League. Now, they didn't do it. but they were quality. Yes, beaten by Man United so you got beat by the semi-finals by Chelsea in 2000 and no, you beat Chelsea to go through to the final. No, let me get this right. When did you get knocked out of a semi-final by Chelsea, or did you knock them out?
That was in the Invincible year. They knocked us out.
So that happened. The following year, you get to the final. I know that you got to the semi-finals in 2009 when Man United knocked you out. And, that, in fairness, and you go back to that game, right? And look, we deserved to win over 2 legs. The first leg was tight and we won 1-0. A slip from Kieran Gibbs and then one of the best free kicks in the history of the Champions League very early on took the game away from Arsenal. Like, that game didn't have the chance to cook because of a mistake, basically, and then an outrageous goal. And I'm not taking nothing away from Man United, but do you know why I celebrated that so much? Because I was scared of Arsenal, and I was watching that game as a full-grown man, not like a hazy memory as a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old. I was watching that as a fully grown man with Arsenal fans around me, and I was cacking. And whenever the English teams played each other between 2004 and like 2011, 2012, in any of these, we were all fearful of each other because Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United and Chelsea were 4 of the best teams in Europe in that time period, without a shadow of a doubt. We were. And it's why the English team dominated at that period.
And can I also just say this, like, just to close it out? I get that 2006 was a long time ago. We definitely should have been better since then. I'm not saying like we should. I just say that, like, make sure you have like actual facts, like, before you say that we've never been close, but I get that it was a long time ago. That being said, saying that we're not Champions League quality, the top 6, 7 teams in the Premier League are probably definitely in the top, 20, maybe even less than that, 15 teams in the world. So to say that we couldn't even get past anybody, if you look at the quality and the gap of quality between Serie A and Premier League, La Liga and Premier League, I think Arsenal are a lot better than some of the teams that you guys think are really good that play in Europe. And so I think that we'd be a lot better than people think, because we're a Premier League team and we would be top 4 / maybe 5th, if you want to throw Man United that they slipped up. But the top 6 Premier League clubs would do well in the Champions League because the Premier League is stronger.
Yeah, and I know you guys won't want this because you won't want Man United to win it. But there is a part of me, if I could paint an ideal picture, let me just get to the end of my sentence, please, Jessica, in her new shirt from her admirer. Like, like, I look at it from the point of view of Man United. You guys come forth and let us win the Champions League, and then all 5 of us are in the Champions League. That'd be fun.
No, I don't like that.
No, I know you wouldn't like it, but that's the only way of getting all 5 in. I would like to see. We had it I swear we had it a few years ago.
Oh, it is that whoever, if an English team wins.
England can have up to 5 people in the Champions League, I believe, but it only works if the winner don't finish in the top 4.
Oh, so you have to finish 5th.
Yes, if we finished 5th or 6th or 7th, but we won the Champions League, we'd be in it. I don't think anymore they take away the 4th place position. I think we can have up to 5. I think England, Spain, and maybe one other country can have up to 5 teams in it. That might have changed. That used to stand. But listen, Arsenal will do all right next year. Do I think they'll win it? No. Do I think they'll get out of their group? Really, what people forget as well is Arsenal, because
we'll get out of our group. Damn.
Let me finish talking, woman. Let me finish talking.
We'll get.
Because Arsenal were in the Champions League for so long and we're in Europa League for so long, your level of coefficient points or the pointing system, you won't be in like pot 4 and have 3 better teams in there. Do you get where I'm coming from? You will still get out your group. And I believe, unless it was done in a way where you had like it, you had Bayern Munich, PSG, and Atletico Madrid in there. Like, I don't even know how that would happen. That could happen. No, if there's something like that happen, maybe not. But I think you'll get out your group, and you'll be a competitive team. Will you win it? No, not next year.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, if you say that you'll get out of your group, people are saying you're gonna win it. Why are you saying that? That's not what I'm saying. I just think, but we also have to get there first, so we can close that conversation. But yeah, interesting conversation. We're not Champions League quality. Got it. Got it, guys.
Yeah, listen, but that's just the way it's always thrown out. Like, by that logic, there's no point in like 16, 17 of the Premier League teams even playing any games because you're not going to win it. So what's the point?
Yeah, that's kind
And
of
then Arsenal
yeah.
will be in pot three. Yeah, well, I still think Arsenal can get out of group. They're in pot three because there are lots of teams that are in pot one and pot two that Arsenal are probably better than in the grand scheme of things. And again, it goes back to what we've said earlier. So don't forget these early bits.
Yeah.
It depends on who they buy and
Yep.
how much money you spend. If Arsenal have a summer where they sign two bang average players and the sort of we're waiting until next year, then maybe they go out in the group stages. But if they go out and get a top class striker and a brilliant midfielder and two really good midfielders and a top class striker, and they maintain the rest of the squad, then of course they can get out their group. Like it's a crazy thing. Jessica's just got to let me finish sometimes because she always thinks I'm going to attack Arsenal and I'm not. So I apologize for calling you woman, but there we go. You are a woman, though, to be fair. So it's just stating a fact.
Yeah.
But you don't look very
Yeah.
offended, so I'll leave it there. Somebody somewhere will be. Arsenal moving in the right direction. Paul recently had to build from the ground upwards. Need a striker, though, is what Danny says there.
And that's the other thing about when other teams, there's going to be so many teams looking for a striker. Depending on where we finish is going to really make a big difference in terms of who we can get. Manchester United looking for a striker. Chelsea may be looking for a striker. Man City may still be looking for a striker. I mean, it's important, because we can't just be out here with any old body. We need a really good striker. That's really what's Lacazette's doing a good job, but we all know it's time to move on. So.
Yeah, I hear you on that. The truth sets free. Says great show. Sorry to anyone I was rude to in the past. My bad. I own my actions and comments, and if they weren't positive, then they suck. I don't quite get what the 4 to 24 thing means. Peace for something 20. I don't know what that means, but thank you. I mean, I don't remember you ever being rude to me.
I don't either.
So, I mean, a lot of people are, but it's just life.
I remember you being rude, but I mean, if you apologize, cool.
Yeah, if you felt that way, then you felt that way. Cool. But yeah, there we go. What do you think is going to happen tonight? Any more shocks in the FA Cup?
I mean, I'm so sad that we're not in this competition anymore. No. Norwich and Liverpool, come on, let's be real. The thing about it is that when you look at Man United, Spurs, and Arsenal, because we're definitely in that level below the top three, there's always an opportunity for a shock. But I think Chelsea and Liverpool and Man City are just ticking it on a different level than the next three below. Now, West Ham and Southampton, I think, is an interesting game. I think that one, with Southampton's recent form, I could see West Ham going out and don't hate me, West Ham fans, because I know you guys don't like when people say this, but you didn't play that well against Wolves. Wolves were just so tired from their cup final against Arsenal that you won the game. So I think Southampton have played very well recently. I think that's the game to watch because Liverpool and City and Chelsea are not going to go out. I don't think those teams are. They're just. Do they really have a slip up in them? They don't. I don't see it. I know it's the magic of the FA Cup, but that only really applies to Man United, Spurs, and Arsenal, doesn't it?
Yeah, Luton, no, Norwich. It just isn't going to happen. If it was Norwich away, if Norwich were at home, no, it's just Norwich too open. That'll be there's going to be no shocks tonight. There's no shocks. The only shock is they're starting. The kickoff times are mental. I don't really understand it. There's going to be no shocks in the FA Cup tonight. Chelsea through easily. Liverpool through easily. West Ham, Southampton can go either way. And it's going to be interesting to see the next round now. You've got basically Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea. It's one of those three are going to win it now. And that's why Spurs have got to kick themselves as well, because you never know about the quarterfinal. You never know about the next round. You never know. You could get Liverpool versus City, so one of them goes out. Chelsea could have drawn West Ham and they get knocked out. And suddenly you can find yourselves in a
once you get to the semifinals too, all bets are off at that point. All the other stuff doesn't matter because you're just trying to win the game. It doesn't really matter. They just didn't give themselves a chance, which I'm really happy about. But then there's, the question around could Liverpool end up getting the quadruple? Those conversations are starting to happen as well. If they can win the FA Cup, and then they definitely could win the Champions League, and they're a lot closer to City than I thought that they would be at this point. So those conversations are happening, and so it's going to get really interesting. I think, yeah, I'm looking at Liverpool a little bit differently now towards the back end of the season, like the way that they bolstered the side, and things are changing at Liverpool as well. Like watching Klopp take Mane out and go with other players, they're going to go again. They're very strong, and yeah, Liverpool could do something really special this season, but again, they would have to get past Man City, and Man City are quite special this season too. So there you go.
It's going to be interesting. I don't want to see no quads. It's like I need anybody but it's I don't want anybody but City or Chelsea, City or Liverpool to win the FA Cup, because it will stop City from being able to do a treble and stop the quad from happening. And I just need that. Like, can't have anyone equal that. Like, I'm very precious over that thing. We're the only one to have in England. But there we go. Jay, absolute pleasure as always. Thank you very, very much indeed to all of our viewers, all of our super chatters, all of our new subscribers. Thank you. We're back live after the FA Cup games tonight. It's so hard because Chelsea kick off an hour before Liverpool. So I'm going to judge on the results when we go live and what we cover. It's ridiculous they've done that. It's an absolute atrocity that they spread the games out like that. I suppose they don't think about people doing match reviews, though, do they? They think about people being able to watch the games. But
yeah.
But there we go. Sharek, hope you're well, my friend. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Are you watching in Kashmir? Top man. I had a jumper made of cashmere once. It was so soft.
Okay.
It was. I know. I was young. My nan bought it. I wouldn't wear it out, though, because you get bullied for that, like where I was from. Do you know what I mean? Hit that like and that share button, my people. Thank you very much.